Okay, hi, my name's Cell. I play the game all the time. I'm a Valorant one-trick basically. I sometimes play TFT when I'm going insane by playing ranked all the time. I otherwise have played this game since beta, and something that really bugs me right now is the state that Deadlock is in. If you don't know, I played Deadlock, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks straight? Maybe a month or more. I don't know, it was something insane. I speed ran Deadlock, and I solo queued her to Radiant. I think I was the first one in NA at least to do it. I did it before Royal G or Baby J. If not, I was around the same time period. And I was torn. I was torn because I really liked the way her wall worked. I think her Seize grenade is great. It really comes down to how her ultimate works and how her trips work, the sonic sensors. The sonic sensors are easily the worst piece of utility that costs $200 or 200 credits. It's disappointing and essentially the worst way you could use a trip because it's all based on sound. The reason I even am making this isn't to highlight like, wow, like I got Deadlock Radiant. I'm pointing this out because I really like Deadlock, and I grinded her because I really enjoyed the way her kit looked from the trailers and everything. But here's the thing. When you play an agent for any allotted amount of time and you get the experience on them, you will understand them, you know, like the back of your hand. And in my experience playing Deadlock, she needs either a rework or a complete change in her kit outside of her wall and her grab net. So her sonic sensor needs a change. I think her ultimate needs a change too. It's cool if you look at like Flow Ascending and you're like, wow, like look at his cool Deadlock lineup for, you know, this situation. But they're all very niche and they're very difficult to get into that exact situation, and the amount of dedication and skill it takes to use her ultimate in the way that Flow Ascending does is part of why he's the one doing it, because he is a full-time content creator and he has the time to experiment and create things around her ultimate, which I commend him for. I think it's a very cool thing, and I think it's a cool thing about her ultimate. It's a high skill, high reward type of beat, right? And you don't get that with a lot of the Sentinel ultimates, you know? Like KJ ult, you just place it down and you win a round. Chamber ult, you shoot them and you win a round. Sage ult, you can res someone and lose a round because you res them in the worst possible spot. You know, you get what I mean. Like the Cypher ult, you get info. Cool. Okay, when I was editing, I noticed something. Flow Ascending didn't use a single piece of utility in his pre-round. Like what? Dude. If that doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what the fuck will. My thing is with Deadlock's ult, the range is super bad. I think if it were larger, or if you could increase the range up to 50 meters or 60 meters compared to the 40 meters it's at now, I think her ultimate would be more viable and you would see it used in more creative ways. And if the pullout time was a little bit quicker, you might be able to secure a round off of that. And I think the time for it to be active, like a Raise Rocket, is good because it is difficult to get some of the lineups you have to do. The thing I really like about her ult is that it really forces the other team to incorporate team play and breaking it, or your team and killing everyone else before they can break it, right? Or anyone that might peek and expose themselves. I think that's cool. I think it's a cool idea, and I like that they were inspired by like Blitzcrank in League of Legends. If they increase that, I think that would fix my issues with the ult. Like the time for it to pull out and the range for it up by like 10 meters, 20 meters, it'd be perfect. On to the main issue I have, Deadlock's sonic sensors don't deserve to be in the game. They have not earned their spot. They need a rework. I would take one sonic sensor with increased range, double its range. You take the range of that trip, so then when you put it on, let's say bind for example, and you put it in market and you have it go straight across, it will get anyone that's trying to run past the stairs as well. Make it so she only gets one of those trips, and make it so it can activate like a normal trip instead of a sound requirement, right? Just make it $400 credits, whatever you want to call it. Make it 300 even, you know, something in that range, 300 or 400. I don't mind paying more to get a trip that activates when you walk past it, because that's the whole point of it. It's an information gathering tool. You basically have $400 worth of shit. Like, it is awful. I have to use it in such a specific way that it loses so much value as a Sentinel. If you want to play her as a single Sentinel, she doesn't control space nearly as well as Sage. I'd rather get 2 Sage slows because you actually can stall Like, Deadlock's trips do not stall. You just go past them. Every duelist can dive past them because the range is so shit. Anyone can walk past them. The counter is pressing shift, so you can't leave it inactive on the flank. You have to check flank as a space denial sentinel, which I would consider Sage in that same category, which it just doesn't make sense when you have a hybrid you clearly created, because her wall you can shoot through, but you can throw it very far distances, so you can create lineups, which is cool, right? That's the compromise. Her trip should not be compromised by sound. Just give her only one trip. Make it a chamber deal. It would be better that way. It would be, and make it so you still get the stun effect. Done. Easy. Make it just slightly a little bit wider and twice the length. Give me one of those, make it activate. It would be perfect. Otherwise, she is easily going to stay in this awful state for, I would say, years. And this is coming from someone who grinded her out day one that she released. I loved everything else about the kit. The wall was unique. I have wall lineups for retakes now. Like, you can use her wall in retakes in a way that you couldn't with other agents. You can trap people in her wall. It is so unique. It is so cool. But her trip sucks so much dick. I even know the proper way you're supposed to play around these trips. When you play around these trips, you're supposed to use them for where they're about to plant on defense. For example, if you're on bind, you put one of the trips on truck. So when they come and try to plant and they make the noise like running the truck, that's when you can swing and kill them. But then you have to give up an area like showers, or you have to use her trip in an area where you have to make sound. And the thing is, there are so few maps where you have to make sound to enter a space. It's a joke. Like, even when you look at somewhere like the drop on hookah, normally people are like, well, you have to make sound for that, right? You can silent drop from hookah. Even though it's one of the better spots for a trip, you have to actively hold her trip. Like, if you want to do, like, let's say you want to play on top of tube for B site, and you put her trip on the entryway and you're actively holding that, then you have to use your wall early for long and then run that back to top tube, or have a teammate hold long and then you're holding top tube, or vice versa. Your teammate goes on top tube holding your trip and you play for top long. Right? There's too much compromise for the information or the ability to frag with her trip, because it's almost like they want this combat-based trip where it has this active stun. Like, you don't need a breach anymore because look at the stun effect you get, but then you have to actively hold it, and it's like, I can't throw it. I can't throw the stun. I'd take a stun grenade over this shit. You can give me another grenade variant of that grab net, same model, whatever, I don't care, and then make it stun in a circle radius. Done. I will take that, and it will be 10 times better. Like give her 2 of the grab nets instead, and then make them shorter, because it gives you information, and it's basically stalls in the same way like a Sage slow does. And you can think of it like Killjoy in the sense that, like, Killjoy has 2 nano swarms. She can have 2 of the grab nets, right? And then she has 1 trip that activates in limited radius, but it activates off of contact, and then it's just Killjoy with a wall. Like, it's a similar design, because if you look at the design between Deadlock and Killjoy, it's like they're meant to be paired together. But with how unbalanced the double controller comp is with Harbor and Viper, or even like double Initiator, double Duelist, everything else is stronger than double Sentinel. So why would you ever play a Deadlock with a Killjoy when you have so many better options? So many better options, so many better pairings, so many better combinations. There's no point. There's no incentive to play Deadlock. I think that's part of my gripe. I want an incentive to play this agent and grind it out and teach people things, because I love it. I love playing her personally, but there's no incentive to it. People don't want to look up cool like Deadlock wall lineups, because to be frank, the rest of her kit is so underpowered, there's no point. And it takes too much time to learn to be effective when anyone can look up a Grimwall and get more value out of a Grimwall for like a cool tech thing. Anytime. Or even just using Sage just normally. You will get more value and it's easier. I want this to be clear. This doesn't mean you shouldn't play Deadlock. It means she shouldn't be played in ranked ideally. Like, that is the ideal situation for her right now. I could see her value inside of pro play, inside of tournaments, because then you can find the value in what her kit does in team play. Right? You can have that coordination, but she's not designed well outside of professional play. And even then, we still haven't seen her, because teams know that you can get the same value out of other agents for cheap. If you want to do a trap play with Deadlock, you find it better to do a trap play with Killjoy if you're thinking of Sentinels, because her turret has the infinite range and you can activate it. Basically, you can activate the trap anywhere on the map. Let's say you want to do a trap on Haven. Do like the standard A short turret with an alarm bot long. You can have a breach stun or a breach flash with someone playing bottom short that swings off the turret, and it's perfect. If you want to play off the alarm bot, you can have Omen playing bricks on long and then flash off the alarm bot, and it's a great play. And you can do that in ranks too. It's not just pro play, but you can't get that same coordination off of Deadlock. If you're like, yo, play in Haven Garage and like just hold this angle with my stun, the minute they rotate, because there's someone hits C or someone hits A or someone goes B, and they give up that garage space and someone lurks through, like the trip does nothing. You just wasted $200. Her kit just does not get the value that everyone else gets. Maybe you guys have some better ideas on like what Deadlock should be or should look like. The issue is like that creativity is not going to come into play all the time. So I think a cool thing that League could do as well on top of Valorant is you take fan ideas and you credit them and you give them an opportunity to create these agents and lead projects. I think that would be cool. In the same way that you get CS skins, they get to influence the game, or community modes like Scout Knives, or even free-for-all deathmatch. You know how many years people have waited for free-for-all deathmatch to be in Counter-Strike, and now Counter-Strike 2 is released and it's out? The same thing should happen for Valorant. Like, we need these community-guided efforts to make sure the game stays in a good state, because it's not just the developers that get to decide. We as a community get to decide, is that broken or not? Is that balanced or not? Because we play the game more than anyone. It's like traditional sports. Like, if there was a rule that everyone hated and thought was unfair, they would band together and say, we need to change that rule. It's a community effort. Even though people didn't create soccer or football or whatever it might be, the community still has a say in how it should be played. Just as much as the players, just as much as the developers of whatever sport we're playing. And I compare it to sports because this is an esport. This isn't just a video game. I think there's a separation between esport titles and regular multiplayer or even casual video games. Like, I'm not going to go to Pummel Party and be like, man, that's a broken idea there. Like, why is this in the game? And, you know, expect it to change like that, because it's not some competitive game I'm you know, playing for money potentially, you know? Esports influencers, it's the same thing. You know, they make these creative plays on the game or create these new rules, or, you know, even change it entirely with some inspiration, and they create new things out of it. I think Deadlock deserves that same treatment. Let the community take a spin at this agent. Let us give you some ideas and give you some feedback. Do a Reddit and be like, ask us anything on how to change Deadlock, and let us give you some feedback, because if you haven't heard it already, she sucks. I loved playing her because I love a challenge and I love some of the things that are in her kit, but a lot of those things need to change, or she will be at the bottom of the barrel in the same way that Yoru was for years. Yoru's cool, like, he is broken, but it took a long time for him to get to that state, and they had to rework his decoys as a part of that. It went from footsteps to a full-on clone, and now he's insane. He's one of the best agents in the game. So maybe Deadlock needs that same treatment. Maybe they need to reevaluate what her kit actually should do. That's it for me. I think that's part of why I've been delayed, is because I've just been debating, like, do I even say that I did this speedrun anymore? I have it pinned on my Twitter profile that I hit Radiant with her, and like, I'm proud of the fact that I hit Radiant with her, and I do that with any agent. I'd be proud, but I just know it's not something I can do up into ranked and not be roasted for. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my rant.